You know how when some street cars say light off-road or rally in their title, and you think something like this and you think, gee whiz, even gravel's going to be a little bit of a tough day for it. Well, when you get a small version of this thing, like the MJX Hyper Go, that not only comes with fairly grippy road tires with foams, but also some pretty knobbly off-road stuff, again with foams, I got to think, do they really want me to take this onto my dirt track down there? And I kind of got to think yes. So today I'm going to show you what you get in this box. Thank you MJX for sending me this car to have a look at. I thought about it for a little bit before saying yes, because you know we're a crawler focused channel here, and I know a lot of you guys are here for the crawlers, some for the trucks, some for the equipment, the heavy RC gear, but we do have some road stuff, and I thought, hey, for a street basher, particularly something so compact and hefty, I don't know, I was hoping that it would be interesting to you guys. So let's take a look at this thing. We'll see if it measures up to its claims on the box. I think it's something like $180 US on the price tag. So it's not a cheap car, but it's also not crazy expensive like some of the bigger stuff. It's obviously a small car, but it does have a lot of the features of the big stuff, and I just can't wait to take you through it. I haven't been excited about a faster RC car of this size since I was disappointed by the baby Traxxas Slash, and I mean, that was a real disappointment. That was years ago. Pulling this thing out of the box, it's a different story. Let me show you what's in there. You also get the standard now, or it's becoming standard, USB charger. It's a 2S balance plug charger, 1.5 amps at outputs. That's plenty fast. Some basic tools, spare body pins, which you're probably going to need because these often come out. They're quite light. They're not like these heavier fellas here. They're quite a bit thicker and stiffer. It's good to have spares, but I might replace these with something a bit heavier, but hey, body pins are cheap at least, so there's that. We also get a set of stiffer springs, which is probably a good thing. Let's just have one quick look at this first. So this is the same as the Bezgar radio in that when you first turn this thing on, either at 70% throttle or 100% throttle, which is great, you don't touch the steering, you don't touch the throttle, because it calibrates neutral based on where these are, and I'm pretty sure it binds with the receiver each time. I could probably use this with this, given that it has the same radio, and I mean, I can test that later, but in any case, you turn it on, hands off for a couple of seconds till they've talked, and then off you go. That's what you get in the box. Now, I haven't pulled this off yet. I do see a bunch of lights all through it, so we're going to be careful. There's likely going to be yep, there's a cable attached. Oh, hey. All right, so some of the tape's coming off. Check that, but let me just see, are there other... All right, good. Well, there's nowhere to get confused because this can only go back into one spot. It's a pretty busy receiver. Do you know what's really nice? Separate components. It's not an all-in-one receiver. It's a separate receiver. The R3B receiver. There's your little tiny gyro. There's your 2845 motor, and there is your 45 amp brushless ESC. And isn't this snazzy? This is something I wish more manufacturers did. It's just a rough cut piece of polycarbonate, but it lets the thing breathe while keeping a lot of the debris out. Now when you... Oh, that's interesting. There's a screw on top to hold the ball end in. That's off completely. We might have to fix that. Even on-road, a cover like this will keep a fair amount of debris out, but off-road is really where it matters. Now I see a battery in there as well. And look how everything's stood up. There's a servo underneath here. Let's pop this off. So we've got 4 body pins off already. We'll take 3 more off now to get the polycarbonate cover off. Now you don't have to use this cover if you don't want, but if you're using it on anything where there's moisture or on the track where I'm about to go, it's worth doing. Now I think this still has its little cover on it. Yes, it does. So you could paint this if you wanted to. It's a kind of oily feeling polycarbonate. I think just wash it first with detergent and then, yeah, paint it if you want, if you like. Doesn't really matter. What a solid little system. There's surely no need for this brace from tower to tower, but isn't it nice to have? It's quite attractive. How much adjustment do we have here? Okay, so there's actually very little adjustment here. The only adjustment I see for anything is preloading for the springs with these fellas. Everything else I think is actually fairly set. Well, that's fine. What I do see is a lot of triangles in the geometry here. It's actually a fairly robust little thing. This foam, I suppose it does protect the body, since we'll get to the lights in a sec, but this whole thing here sits above the foam and this lip sits in front of the plastic. So the front of my infraction has taken some knocks. This underneath is going to take some knocks too, but the body isn't going to be distorted beyond recognition. Like, that would get very bad very quickly if that wasn't there. So that's actually quite good. The diffuser in the rear is also very securely held in. All in all, it's a promising start. This looks quite good. I am going to keep my eye on these little ball ends, stainless steel though they are. To find one that was already popped off out of the box does make me wonder how long these will last, particularly if they get debris in them. Here's an Armour style battery retention. This looks like a lithium ion, not a LiPo. Yeah, it is, look at that. There's two 18650s in here. Does it have a discharge rating? It's usually 10 or 15 C, absolutely maximum. Doesn't have a C rating. This is going to be tapped out pretty hard. So this little car with a brushless system, it says 3900 kV on the box, but it's actually a 3700 kV motor. Lower kV means better acceleration and easier on the battery. Higher kV means more rotations per volt, which means higher power draw. It's rougher on the ESC and it's definitely rougher on the batteries. 3700 kV, depending on gearing, is definitely going to be kinder than 39. Yeah, look, they wouldn't have included it if it wasn't good, but LiPos will be better if you can. This thing is 2S and 3S compatible. So that's your battery. Great to see fans on both of these. If you're just running this thing on 2S, you could probably do away with that fan. I'm guessing, but that's a guess based on some experience. I see a gyro here. The documentation recommends 75%, which is where this is set. Got nice smooth feeling diffs. Now there are only two diffs. There's a motor with the pinion and a spur gear under there, and then a diff at each end, and that's it. You've got a good bit of toe out. Springs feel quite good. It is actually stiffer in the front than the rear. I think you're going to want some preload on road, particularly if you're running hard. It's nice to give you stiffer coils with this, because this might be a little soft. You probably want to at least preload it somewhat for the road. Gee, that's a lot of toe out. If you're going to do high-speed runs with this thing, you want to be removing some of that toe out. Yeah, bring them in. See how they're parallel in this picture here? The toe out here is quite different. So the wheels are actually like that. You want them more like that for high-speed runs. The toe out increases stability, particularly on cornering. Let's look for the exploded parts. What I'm looking for is these, I don't know whether I call them turnbuckles, but 14431, they don't explode those parts though. So you don't really have gearing options on here. If you wanted to make this thing more aggressive for heavier off-road stuff, you could get a lower kV motor, and if you were chasing speed, you would get a higher kV motor. It's just interesting. This configuration out of the box is interesting. Right, let's talk body for a minute. We'll come back to that. Beautiful little setup here. So we've got a LED strip on the back. They'll be red. Lights here as well. Lights at the top. Nice focused kind of throwy headlights. and flashing, I think we saw from the box, yeah, so potential for flashing police style lights in the front. All in all, for a reasonably cheap but still hobby grade car, what an amazing, impressive little system. The spaghetti's hidden under there, but there'll be a little light control board as well. And this has a signal wire coming from the receiver, so that I suppose that's not a button, so maybe the function button, it said 3-channel, maybe that will control your lights. Turn this on, don't touch it for a sec, turn that on. It's not flashing, so I'm guessing we're good. How strong's the servo? That's pretty good, we're on carpet, remember? Now, it flashes by default. That's not a button, is this? Yeah, okay, so it's this function button here that changes through off, on with flashing, everything flashing. So if you want headlights, you have to have these flashing police looking lights. And if that bugs you, they could be disconnected. It's the 3-way wire in here. So 4 screws pop out and just remove that, the 3-core wire from wherever it is. If it's not clear, you could just desolder the red wire, just to kill its power if that annoys you. But otherwise, that's it. We're going to leave it like it is. I've just got double-sided tape. And that's protected by this plastic and the sliders on the roof and by the big lip at the rear. It's actually quite an attractive body, and they've got reinforcement where you want it. Yeah, this isn't bad, hey? There is a weakness there, but the way that this body is held together and with the foam in the front, yeah, that's a good combination. I'm liking this. Now, they tell me this thing can run 2S and 3S. So lithium ion is one thing. We've got a 2S lithium polymer. We also have a 3S lithium polymer as well. MJX sent me these. They suggest these batteries. It's a 3000 2S and a 2 amp 3S, so that keeps the size the same. They're slightly longer than the standard lithium ion, but critically their discharge potential will be higher. Even though they're cheap lipos, 25C will still be higher than whatever this is. In all honesty, it'll be 10 to 15C. That's the best you can really expect from lithium ion, and that could be enough, but I think those cells will be strained pretty hard. Also, curiously, the charger must detect, because the charging profile is different for lithium ion to LiPo, and this doesn't say LiPo or lithium ion. If you have a hobby grade charger, use that, that will be better. But otherwise, yeah, use this. What a great idea this is. Okay, let's stick the 3S in, because I want to see how fast this thing goes in 3S. We're going to punt it down the road and see. All right, while I'm waiting for the GPS to initialize, I'm just going to note there's a there's quite a delay on the throttle. I think you can get used to it, but it's yeah, not ideal. All right, we've got 23 satellites. That's good. Real-time speed is working. Yeah, when there's no throttle input, when it's just been sitting there for a sec, there's a slight delay, not a big delay. All right, you can see the gyro working. I can see its little tail wiggling. I don't think we'll need a hugely big run up. And we're out of range already. I'm holding this thing above my head. It's not far away either. All right, well, we did actually manage top speed then. Give our driver a friendly wave. 61, okay, so we figured 60, and that's on 3S at full berries. Now with a top speed of 61 kilometers an hour on 3S, that gives us a likely top speed on 2S of 40 to 45k an hour. I'm not actually going to bother testing that, because this is not a straight speed like drag racer. It's not what it's for. I give you the speed so that you have a reference for what to expect from this car. Now, I'm also in the middle of doing a review of the Bezgar HP161S is what it is. Now, I'm in the middle of filming, so we've got paddle tires on currently and not its normal off-road stuff. But this is an MJX Hyper Go inside and underneath, even down to the radios being truly identical. Just like the Bezgar, we've got dog bones on the outdrives and CVDs on the wheel end. That's on all four on the hubs. So it's an interesting machine. Unlike the Bezgar though, which I think is similarly priced, you get a beautiful 3mm thick magnesium alloy underside. Not all these screws are done up all the way. There is some catching, we'll look at that. But there's even the little bend up, the little kick up, whatever it's called at the front. We'll pull the cover of this in a minute because it's actually quite interesting. But first, there's a lot of stuff about the individual components. We've got fans on both the electronics, introduction to the machine, to the included gyro, which I think for a car this length, that's got like a 2845 3900 kV brushless motor, you kind of want. And then there's more about what's inside it with regards to how it all fits together and the exploded parts diagrams with part numbers that are so good to have in case of breakages and stuff. So we'll get to all that. One thing that really I'm excited about is there's a separate gyro and it's adjustable. That's amazing because it's not just that it's going to make this car better, but it's also that I can take it out and put it in other little cars Bezgar, that might need it. That's a big deal. Very cool. Also comes with other wheels. This is all one-piece plastic mold, injection molded wheel for drift. Really, it's just for spinning the wheels. Some people will enjoy this. I have yet to see the appeal of having like a hard plastic wheel like this, but I could be convinced. I'll give it a go. But we also have these fairly hefty off-road tire treads, and they're about twice as aggressive as the road ones, I guess. And the road ones are still fairly aggressive. I mean, if this was a full-size car, what this thing comes with is actually aggressive all-terrains, at least aggressive all-terrains, even kind of light-duty mud terrains. So it's an interesting tread choice for a road car, especially since they also include properly aggressive mud tires. In this case, I guess we're gonna be using these down on my track. We might do some experimenting there. Okay, we're on 2S power and we're on a grassy driveway. There are some sticks. Okay, we did literally like 2 circles on the grass out there. And then the battery on my GoPro died, but it got hung up on grass and we couldn't move anywhere. Because it couldn't get traction, we just sat there spinning wheels because, you know, there's not a lot of ground clearance here. These cars are advertised as saying, you know, gravel and whatnot. But again, think about the amount of clearance you've got here. There's very little clearance. And so they get stuck and they just sit there spinning their wheels. That's not fun. If you want an MJX Go, Hyper Go, this rebranded Bezgar, again, we've got the paddle wheels on, but it came with chunky tires. You get the ground clearance where that's not a problem. If you want this thing's experience with this, get this, slap a gyro in it if you care. My video's not done for this yet, but we actually had this at the track and had to play with it on the racetrack. Clearly it's not designed for that, but it was quite good. This is a good all-rounder, so look out for my Bezgar video soon. Keep this fella on the road, I think. All right, so now we have the off-road tires on. Maybe they'll be low traction, but still satisfying. Let's find out. Definitely a lot better. Suspension needs some tuning. She's too soft in the rear. Right, the really squishy springs are gone. I've got the heavier ones that they supply in the box on all corners now. I've left the preload 80% on the rear because it really is going to need it. Just see how much it squatted down. It just sat, and that's why I kept spinning out before. I've left no preload at the front, but stiffer springs. Sorry about the noise here. Working. Right, let's get it back on the hard stuff and we'll see how it goes. All right, now we're on 2S instead of 3S. Road tires back on, stiff rear springs with a bunch of preload. It's still squatting, but I think it might be the best drive I can get today. Let's give it another drive. So a big part of the problem is it keeps squatting and then flying out of control. It's just lifting. So without sway bars, it's very difficult to control. I'm going to stop trying to do a semblance of a track and just play for a little bit. I think this might be the weakest element of this car. It's just in its default layout, it loses its direction very easily, but it is fun. We'll give it that. Do you know what I don't like? Look at this. It's still giving an input, even I thought I felt this on the road before. When my finger's up, I'm not on the throttle. That shouldn't be happening. So it's a cheap radio system. It's probably my least favorite part of this car. The good news is, because even the gyro is separate, you can replace this radio system with a better one if you want, and the rest of the car doesn't need any changing. So I only see that as a strength. I guess it helps keep the cost down, and I do like these tight body post holes. That's really good. This thing's not going to rattle around. Some faster cars I have also, when you're driving faster, they go digga 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 digga. You got to kind of put tape underneath the holes and bolster it a bit. This whole thing, this is why I was excited about this car. It's solid from start to finish. Yes, it's made to a price, and so yes, it's not going to be perfect, but it's solid where it needs to be. I'm going to leave the gyro turned up. Yeah, that's good. So some of my challenge with this interesting thing is I need to learn how to drive, obviously. I did find it cornered better at higher speed, and then if you lift off and then come back on, kind of like on a racetrack, it would actually track better. But lower speed stuff, or as soon as there's any hint of dust or gravel on the surface, it would just spin out. Now the stiffer rear springs made a difference, and it's great that they include that. I think what I like least about this car is that it spins out so readily. That said, what I like most about this car is its sheer get up and go, especially on 3S. You don't get a 3S battery with it, you get a 2S lithium ion, but if you can get a 3S LiPo in it, you'll be laughing and giggling away. I just ran 2S then and 3S earlier. I also encourage you to try drift in a small space on any surface that you don't care about scratching. It is actually quite fun in a small tight track. Once you start to get a bit bigger, I think the fun wears off. I tried the off-road tires. They wear very quickly on bitumen, as you'd expect, but the included road tires with stiffer springs in the rear, this is a winner. It is actually really fun to drive. I do recommend it. Check the description below for a link on where to find it. It's not a cheap small car, but it's a cheap RC car that's hobby grade, and it gives you a bunch of included goodies. Do consider checking it out. My thanks to the company for sending this to me. The Hyper Go is now well and truly on my list of cars that are definitely fun. You can do an awful lot worse for your money, honestly, if you want something small just to grab and go. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this thing yet, but I'm well impressed with what you get. Guys, thanks for watching. Throw me a like and I'll catch you again on RC-TNT very soon. Cheers.